So let's shift gears a little bit because it is a great business case study. We know that student athletes, we talk about it a lot here. We're starting businesses around it. We know it's long overdue, but we know at some point soon, in Florida, July the 1st, and maybe at a federal level, that all student athletes are going to be able to start getting compensated for what we call their name, image, and likeness. No different than you and I or my sons do right now. We know it's going to be create a seismic shift. I think it's long overdue. I think it's going to be a great thing. You know, everybody focuses on Trevor and all that, but there's 500,000 of these tremendous student athletes whom I love to hire, work ethic, discipline. Your take on the impact that athletes being able to get paid, or what we call name, image, and likeness, is going to make on college sports?
I mean, I don't even know a word that can really articulate it. I guess massive, seismic maybe. And I always think about it from a coach's perspective. And again, I think you're exactly right. It's long overdue. And if you offer something that people want to be a part of, and people, you know, when Cam Newton was at Auburn, they weren't going buying number 2 Auburn jerseys just because it was an Auburn jersey. They were buying because it was Cam Newton. Tim Tebow is the same thing. But what I think it's
AJ Green got a suspension.
Yeah, Todd Gurley too. It's unreal. It's unreal. And to look at it to say, well, I'm going to start the Jboy Show, and this is my name and my image and likeness. Well, I want to get paid for that.
Right.
It's unbelievably hypocritical to look and say, well, okay, big-time running back, people want to buy your jerseys and get autographed stuff, but you don't get paid for that. That's not the society we live in, and that's not really capitalistic in my opinion. So I think it's good. But from a coaching standpoint, I'm so interested, Vince, because I think it is going to be interesting to see how these coaches navigate it with the young guys. Because starting with these 5-star recruits that we all know recruiting is massive, and they do these interviews and they get propped up, and all of a sudden you got a freshman that's coming in that's probably going to get sponsored by Gatorade, and he's a big-time guy, whoever it is, whatever school you root for. Well, you got to get that kid to be able to buckle down academically. You got to be able to get that kid to buckle down on the practice field, and I think it's going to be interesting to watch from that standpoint. But if I am a sponsor or somebody that is paying attention, you have to get in on this early. Because right now, if you're not already looking on how to get in, you're already late. You're already hurting yourself, because it will touch every conference. It will touch every team that's worth their salt. And I think it's going to affect the way teams practice. I think it's going to affect the way that kids
100%,
play.
100%.
And I'm just very interested to see the amount of money that will be made off this, not only by the student athlete or whatever, but by the sponsor, could be incredible. I just think about, I'll use Auburn for an example. Tank Bigsby breaks a 70-yard run, and he's sponsored by Gatorade, or who knows what's going to stop him from making a sign or a Gatorade sign every time he scores.
What if he's sponsored by the military?
Yeah.
His name's Tank.
Yeah.
What about a heavy equipment
Lockheed
company?
Martin.
Exactly. Right. This run brought to you by, Tank's run brought to you by Lockheed Martin. I think it's endless. And I always use the Auburn women's equestrian team. They practice as hard as the Auburn football team. So why can't a young lady put $5 or $10 in her pocket from a saddle company, a boot company, a rain company, a bit company, or riding clothes, because Under Armour doesn't make riding clothes and those types of things, and maybe save those programs. And I'll tell you a real life story. It happened to me. I met a 5-star recruit, and he knew I was in the branding business, and he said, I got a question to ask you. He said, I'm not concerned with what I can do for the university's brand. I'm concerned with what the university can do for my brand. Now, this kid's 17. I want you to think about that question. And they had a passion for a lot of things: cause, community, music, fashion. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. But think about the adjustment that major coaches who are old school, Nick, even Dabo, Kirby, Gus, Coach O. I mean, this is a seismic shift in mindset that all coaches are going to have to make, and it's coming.
Yeah. Well, I'll do you one better, Vince. Think about the new classes you're going to have to put at the school. Whether I'm a guy that, hey, I want to work on creating a shoot for myself. Well, you better have a class that you're offering, whether it's at LSU, whether it's at Auburn, whether it's at Florida, that teaches that guy how to do that. I think they're going to have academic institutions are actually going to have stuff added to the school. It's already happening right now. That's kind of tailored to that, and it's amazing because that mindset he is not alone in thinking that. That is how the recruit thinks nowadays.
By the way, that's the rule, not the exception.
That's exactly right. And that's how they think nowadays. And it is about their brand, not as much as the university's brand. But you will see a coalescing of those two. And it's going to be a race. And I'd be willing to bet on Nick Saban probably in this, is who can marry that up the most. Because kids nowadays in recruiting, this isn't the old days, Vince, of, oh, I grew up an Alabama fan, so I'm going to Alabama no matter what. These kids nowadays and these parents nowadays
it's a business decision.
Exactly. My kid wants to get to the NFL. What school, what opportunity from a branding standpoint, eyes standpoint, winning standpoint, and I've got into that about expanding the playoff, which I think will help the parity of the sport. But now that is the situation. And to me, I think it gives, obviously, the schools that have the most resources, but the coaches that are able to go in there and navigate those waters the best when they're talking to that family, and they're having to speak of not, what just we can offer you from a normal standpoint in the football realm, but hey, we can get you this sponsor. Look who we're sponsored by. His eyes are going to be here. And I wonder how many deals are going to be made between recruits and coaches that are just because of one big sponsor.
Right.
That can start bringing in money, because a lot of these recruits, Vince, and people think, oh, well, they try and get money whether they're selling, rings or stuff like that, and then they get in trouble. They think they're trying to get money for them. A lot of these kids are trying to get money and send it back to their families.
No doubt.
So now you are changing the circumstance of your whole family before you even get drafted into the NFL. And any smart business person or any person that has a talent or an attribute that people will pay a lot for in something that people care a lot about, speaking about SEC football, why would you not take that to the max? So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they navigate it. But I'll say this again. If you're a company and you are not already looking at this, or you are not getting help about this, you are already late. So you better hurry up and do it, because these coaches, I know they've been pitched by many different companies already about this. So I know it's going to be very interesting to watch, but it's going to be a fist fight, and whoever can be the most efficient, whoever can figure out that process or that blueprint will have the most success.
Well, I think that if you look at that Sarah Fuller story, and how her social media just exploded like thousands of times more. When I reached out to some friends of mine who are CMOs and CEOs at very high levels, and I said, this is what I'm talking about. If this doesn't get your attention, nothing will. But why do you think the NCAA has always tried to stop this?
Well, and again, I'll speak frankly about the NCAA. I think it stands for nobody cares about athletes. But I think they have seen this coming for a while.
Wait. Say that acronym again.
I think the NCAA really stands for nobody cares about athletes.
Wow. Powerful.
And
I'm sure that's going to win us a lot of friends, but...
when I look at it, Vince, and I know they've seen it coming from social media, because one clip can make you famous. One thing can make you famous. All it takes is one big run, one big catch, one big home
What
run.
about the young lady from Auburn that broke both of her legs?
Oh, it's
what a story. The
it's
gymnast.
Unreal. But all these, now with the pandemic, all these Title IX and stuff like that, they're wondering why these sports are getting cut. Well, what's one way to bring them back, Vince? Sponsor that equestrian girl.
I've said it all along.
Sponsor it. That's one way to save it. But when I'm looking at it, I think the NCAA realizes the magnitude of the amount of money. And to me, what is the NCAA if all this stuff happens? They're the middleman, Vince. And eventually, the middleman gets cut out. So I know they have smart guys. They have smart people.
They're smart
that
people.
Can look. But at the end of the day, if they're not going to be flexible and they're not going to share the money, they're going to get cut out of the situation.
I sat in their offices in 2006 and 05 and 06 and tried to have this conversation with them. And I think they threw me in that lake outside the headquarters.
He knows.
And I said, but I'm sitting in this Taj Mahal, and you get $1 billion a year in. It seems out of whack to me. And my big soapbox is about the coaches' buyouts. Hey, let me pay you to fail. That doesn't happen in any other world. So to your point, I think that the seismic, I think it's fascinating. I think it's long overdue. And to think this movement was really created by the NCAA football game, which the Collegiate Licensing Corporation and Ed O'Bannon sitting around one day, a former basketball player, and goes, wait a minute, I don't think I gave anybody permission for this. And people don't realize that When they see 4-year scholarship, it's really a 1-year contract renewable at the leisure of the university, and you give away your name, image, and likeness in that uniform in perpetuity.
You've just listened to The Meltdown. Remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram @MeltATL, and follow Vince @VinnyInc, and on LinkedIn as Vince Thompson.